الله أكبر الله أكبر. الله أكبر الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله. أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله. حي على الصلاة. حي على الصلاة. حي على الفلاح. حي على الفلاح. الله أكبر الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله. أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله
الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. سنة من قد أرسلنا قبلك من رسلنا ولا تجد لسنتنا تحويلا. أقم الصلاة لدلوك الشمس إلى غسق الليل وقرآن الفجر إن قرآن الفجر كان مشهودا. ومن الليل فتهجد به نافلة لك عسى أن يبعثك ربك مقاما محمودا. وقل رب أدخلني مدخل صدق وأخرجني مخرج صدق واجعل لي من لدنك سلطانا نصيرا. وقل جاء الحق وزهق الباطل إن الباطل كان زهوقا. وننزل من القرآن ما هو شفاء ورحمة للمؤمنين ولا يزيد الظالمين إلا خسارا. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. والشمس وضحاها والقمر إذا تلاها والنهار إذا جلاها والليل إذا يغشاها والسماء وما بناها والأرض وما طحاها ونفس وما سواها فألهمها فجورها وتقواها قد أفلح من زكاها وقد خاب من دساها كذبت ثمود بطغواها إذ انبعث أشقاها فقال لهم رسول الله ناقة الله وسقياها فكذبوه فعقروها فدمدم عليهم ربهم بذنبهم فسواها ولا يخاف عقباها. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم لك الحمد كله ولك الشكر كله وإليك يرجع الأمر كله بيدك الخير إنك على كل شيء قدير. اللهم صل على محمد النبي الأمي وعلى آله وسلم تسليما. اللهم أنت السلام ومنك السلام تباركت يا ذا الجلال والإكرام برحمتك يا أرحم.
Inshallah, after remaining prayers, our weekly program will continue. And there's a request for dua. There's one brother in Thorncliffe area, Abdul Samad Patel, from Wadeti. He's in extremely serious condition. So please make dua for his recovery. Assalamu alaikum. Those brothers have finished the salah, kindly come forward.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يا بني إسرائيل اذكروا نعمتي التي أنعمت عليكم وأوفوا بعهدي أوف بعهدكم وإياي فارهبون. وآمنوا بما أنزلت مصدقا لما معكم ولا تكونوا أول كافر به ولا تشتروا بآياتي ثمنا قليلا وإياي فاتقون. ولا تلبسوا الحق بالباطل وتكتموا الحق وأنتم تعلمون. وأقيموا الصلاة وآتوا الزكاة واركعوا مع الراكعين. أتأمرون الناس بالبر وتنسون أنفسكم وأنتم تتلون الكتاب أفلا تعقلون. واستعينوا بالصبر والصلاة وإنها لكبيرة إلا على الخاشعين الذين يظنون أنهم ملاقو ربهم وأنهم إليه راجعون. صدق الله العظيم.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونؤمن به ونتوكل عليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلله فلا هادي له. ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ونشهد أن سيدنا محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وأصحابه ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. وما خلقت الجن والإنس إلا ليعبدون. صدق الله العلي العظيم. Respected and honorable brothers, respected elders, respected mothers, sisters, and beloved youngsters. This week is a very special week for the young kids. Whenever October 31st comes, it comes with all kinds of excitement. It's a time when we can dress up, disguise ourselves, come into different forms, show off what we have, what kind of uniform we have, and people actually go trick-or-treating, etc. Our Hafiz Salim brought an article yesterday from Toronto Star, and the article was about halal, Halloween, and Halloween. This was actually in Toronto Star, the whole big long article. Sister Uzma, she makes her points and says there's nothing wrong in going and trick-or-treating, etc., etc. So there was a whole big article on that. When we come here, our topic of discussion is not related to entertainment and walk you through all the different things about Halloween, etc., but to bring your attention towards reality. Now, we know, as far as Halloween is concerned, I'm not going to go into the details, too much details, because I want to stick to the topic, which is talking about jinns today. But one thing we need to keep in mind, that all these things that came into existence, they came well before Christianity. The roots are, deeply rooted to paganism and idol worshipping people. So they had all these funny traditions, and one of the belief was that ghost. You guys know what ghost is? I'm sure you guys watch Ghostbusters and all that, right? Obviously, see, he's laughing, so obviously he knows something about it. So, ghost. Obviously, when you talk about ghost here, what is ghost? What their understanding of ghost is basically when someone passes away, then the soul, the body obviously goes to the ground, but the soul returns back and it just roams around, and it does not go to the heavens. The good people, their soul goes to the heavens, but bad people just roams around. And some people actually have the belief that reincarnation. You don't know what that means, do you? You guys are too young to know that. So what it means is basically that the soul is transferred into another human being or another animal. So it's the same person, but it's in a different form now. So it keeps on going like that and so forth. This is against the belief of Islam, and we should not be having such belief. In fact, reincarnation is something which is against the three major religions, which is Abrahamic religion, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. All three of them. So these kind of things we totally avoid. One of the things that we also find is jack-o'-lantern. And the concept behind that is that when they put that on the windowsill or in the window, then no evil will come into their house. So that is a means of protection, so that no evil will enter, no shaitan will enter into their house. The reason why they put all these different funny costumes on is so that when the evil souls, when they come, so what they feel is that November, that's when the dark days start, because winter comes, there's no fruits, there's no vegetables growing, and harvest season is over. So now they start to believe in dark days coming and Shayateen coming. So what they disguise themselves and they put different masks on, thinking that when the souls come, the bad souls come, they will not come to them because you're impersonating something else. So you're not showing who you are. So as a result of that, they're not going to come to you. So these are all these different myths which exist, and we should not get caught up with these things here. And I know I was asking some of the youngsters today that, are you going to go trick-or-treating? And the person said, yes, I go trick-or-treating. I'm like, why do you go trick-or-treating? He goes, I just go. I said, don't you have candies? He goes, I have candies, but I like to get candies. So kids go for the fun of it. But keep in mind, Islam teaches us respect. Islam teaches us dignity. Islam teaches us if you need to ask anyone, if you need anything, we only turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Even you're young, but still we should train our children that if you need something, even before you go to your dad, you're going to go to who? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We're not going to, anything that we need. All of you sitting here, whatever you need, the first thing you're going to be doing is making dua to Allah. and ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then you will go to your father and your mother and ask them. But first thing is, we go to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So I'm not going to go into those hadiths which I mentioned in Jummah program, how despicable and how detested it is in the light of Sharia and Deen, and from the teaching of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the Quran itself, to ask someone and raise your hand before someone. A dignified person, even if he's starving for a day or two, he will starve, but he will not raise his hand before someone. That is a respected person. So again, obviously when you go around asking, obviously there is a form of, give me it. If you don't give me, then I'll show you a trick and I'll fool you. Things like that, all these different tricks that carry on, which is not something in line of Deen. So obviously it's better to avoid these kind of things here. Tomorrow's the day, and it's better to avoid. You know what, if you're really after candies, if you're really after chocolates, you know what I would tell you? If you really want them, then don't go tomorrow door to door, but you know what you do? The next day will be what? November 1st, which will be Sunday. So you know what you do? You go to Walmart and you go to Shoppers Drug Mart. All those Halloween chocolates, they will be for half price. So whatever you want, just get them. And you'll be, if you go earlier, you'll be able to get them. Because what happens once Halloween is gone, then all those chocolates which has bat on it and all the different funny things on it, they have to get rid of it because the season is gone. So they make it very cheap, and people are just buying it. So there's a lot of people that go there. So if you're really dying for chocolate, again, chocolate is not a healthy thing to eat anyways. It's just sugar that you're putting into your mouth and to your system, which is not good for you. But anyways, if you really want to, just go and shop, and that's the best way to get chocolates, and you can fill your tummies like that. But don't do it the other way. Do it the proper way. One of the things that obviously we don't believe in ghosts. We don't believe in demons. However, one thing we need to keep in mind, that there is something that does exist, whether we live in 21st century, whether the scientists, whoever it may be, no matter how educated we are, we know there is a force that exists, and it's beyond our comprehension. There is a force out there. We can't understand it. It's not within the realm of science, and they're not able to pinpoint exactly why this happens. It's not within the realm of the laws of physics. It's not within the rules of physics. So obviously we're not able to pinpoint exactly what it is. But there is something out there. Every country, every place, every religion, every culture knows that there is something beyond beyond logic which exists. There is a force out there, and people give it a different name to it. And the funny thing is, everyone knows it's bad, but they have their own way of depicting it. Some people, if I ask you to draw shaitan, well, how do you know how the shaitan looks like? Well, you're just going to draw whatever you see. So everyone's got their own idea and own way of drawing what evil. And people will say, this is shaitan, that is shaitan. But the reality is that we are not able to see this force here, but it does exist. So let's just go through what jinn is all about. The word jinn in Arabic language comes from the root word jannah. Jannah. So anything that comes from the root word jannah. Jannah in Arabic language means something which is unseen, something which is concealed, something which is hidden. That is why we find jannah. You know the word jannah, the noun, jannatun. Why do we call it jannatun? Because ma la aynu ra'at, wa la udunun sami'at, wa la khatara ala qalbi bashar, or kama qala Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says Jannah is called Jannat because it is unseen. It is something which is covered and we can't see it. That is why it's called Jannah. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says Ma la aynun ra'at. No eyes have ever seen it. Wala udunun sami'at. No ears have heard about it. And they could not even fathom. They have, nothing has even crossed their hearts about Jannah because it's completely sealed. Mijannah. That's another word because it means shield. Something which they keep, they don't expose it. Another word is jinnah. Jinnah also means what? Madness. It also means jinn. So obviously jinn, something which cannot be seen. So all the words that come out from the root word jannah basically means unseen. So jinn is also called in English they call it jinni. So jinni or jinn, this is also because it's unseen, we cannot see it. That is why it's called jinn, something which we cannot see. Rasulullah Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in the Quran, إِنَّهُمْ يَرَوْنَهُ مِنْ حَيْثُ, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions about them that they are able to see you, but you are not able to see them. إِنَّهُ يَرَاكُمْ هُوَ وَقَبِيلَهُ مِنْ حَيْثُ لَا تَرَوْنَهُمْ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions he and his group of people, meaning shaitan, and shaitan comes from jinn. So they are able to see you, but you are not able to see them. So Allah has given them powers, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has not given us power to see them. So they can see us, but we will not be able to see them. This is something we need to keep in mind. Before we go on talking about jinn, one very, very important principle everyone needs to listen and hear this very carefully. That there is evil force out there. There is magic out there. There is shayateen out there. Jinn and shayateen are basically the same thing. They're out there. There is other things out there which can affect human beings. But one problem that we have is that we give too much power, and this is what happens in Christianity. We give too much power to evil forces. We need to understand, I think the elders can understand this very carefully, that good and bad, everything is the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Nothing goes beyond the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we have to understand that Allah created good, Allah created evil, Allah created bad things. And Ghalib, the most dominant, is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Qadir, Allah has power over everything. Why am I saying this? Is because sometimes when someone is affected with some kind of jinn, or someone is affected with magic, they give so much power to that. Now they think, oh my God, this person is done now. This person is under someone's spell. This person is possessed. And they will do anything. If they have to travel from country to country, they will do that just to ward that off, but they will not turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They will go to different people, they will do different things, and they will have so much belief in that they think that the world has ended. Some people, the reality is, there is nothing wrong with them, it's just psychological. They think that they are possessed. They think someone has done magic on them. But the moment that they think about this, they think this is so powerful, now they think, oh, I'm done. I'm doomed. I can't do anything anymore. It was just psychological. They just had this waswasa of thought that someone has possessed them. But there's nothing else to it. But the moment this thought comes to them, now they become completely lame. They become completely, and they believe that they can't do anything anymore, and they will have to live their life like that. So one thing we need to keep in mind, anything, whether it's magic, whatever it may be, it's in the control of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala possesses the power over everything. Now, one hadith that we normally mention this. Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentions that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, a very important hadith that you need to keep in mind. Ana indi dhanni abdi bi. Very famous hadith. I treat my servant according to how they think of me. I deal with my servants according to their expectation with me. So in other words, if our faith in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is very strong, then we will get it like that. But what happens is, especially in these black magic issues, our faith in Allah becomes weak, and our faith in maybe astrologers and different people becomes very, very strong. Let me give you an example to understand what I mean by this. Everyone knows Sahaba radiyallahu majma'in. Everyone knows them. What is the hadith? Very important hadith, and try understanding the hadith. Ana indi dhanni abdi bi. I treat my servant according to his iman in me, his conviction in me, meaning who? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now let's take one example, or maybe two examples. The first example is in Sahih Bukhari, a very famous example. That group of Sahaba radiyallahu majma'in were traveling, and they were going, and when they were going, they came across one community. And this community here, the leader had a problem. He was stung, or he was bitten by a snake, and he was in pain. So he had no remedy, and he was in serious pain. So he approaches the group of Sahabas and says, is there anyone amongst you who can help me of my problem. Because, obviously venomous snakes, obviously you can lose your life. And he was in serious problem. So one of the Sahaba radiallahu ajma'in said, we will be able to help you, but you have to give us something in return. So he agreed upon it. So this Sahaba here, one of the Sahabis, what does he do? He recites what? Surah Al-Fatiha. And he had so much conviction in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. With so much conviction, he recites Surah Al-Fatiha upon that individual who was bitten by a snake, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave that person what? Cure. Now that person who was bitten didn't have that conviction, but the Sahaba radiallahu ajma'in had so much conviction. Is there anyone here who has that level of conviction that, I will read Surah Fatiha and that's it, all my problems will be solved? But that's how Sahaba radiallahu ajma'in were. They had that conviction. So what does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say? Ana indi dhanni abdi bi. I treat my servant according to their expectation. So the problem that we have as a society, the biggest problem that we have is our iman is very weak. Our connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is very weak. Whenever we get into problem, we like to run to different things, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we will not even go to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You know what we're going to do? Can you call the imam and tell him to make dua for me? Can you tell that sheikh and tell him to make dua for me? How about yourself? Why don't you get up and pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? But that is something that doesn't happen, but we just carry on with our own stuff. So this is something very important we need to keep in mind, that as far as a conviction Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is concerned is very important. Another simple example that one alim shared that I would like to mention to you. This happened in Bangladesh. And this also highlights the hadith that I'm mentioning, Ana indi dhanni abdi bi. There's one person, sometimes the youngsters don't get married. And parents, they get fed up with the youngsters, he's not getting married, he's just fooling around. So this youngster here, the father decides to take him to Bangladesh and says, come. So this youngster, he just wanted to go for the fun of it. He goes there, the father starts showing him girls, and he's just taking the father, for a laugh. He's not serious about it, and they're just joking around, whatnot, showing every girl and saying no. And he comes to one girl, and the girl's father insisted that please marry my daughter. And we know in back home countries, people are very desperate to get their daughters married. They will do whatever they can to get their daughters married. So this individual here, this guy here, the father, he wants to make sure that this guy who came from England, will marry his daughter. But he doesn't want to marry her. So what does he do? He does magic on him. And it has effect. So as a result of that, what happened was, after that, he went to other girls, and every girl that he used to go to, he would say no. He kept on refusing, nothing working out. He went to approximately 57 girls, and nothing worked out. Till they realized that this person, he's got some kind of magic on him. Now what happened? They went to different people, nothing is working out. They go to one pious, ordinary person. All he does is he recites Surah Al-Fatiha. All he does is to read Surah Al-Fatiha, and he blows on the person. And spontaneously there's a change in the person, and now when he goes to see another girl, he gets married to the girl. So what happened? That individual, his connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was so strong, and his yaqeen in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the point I'm making here is, first thing we need to keep in mind, that regardless, whatever it is, nothing can harm us. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned in the Quran, وَمَا هُمْ بِضَارِّينَ بِهِ مِنْ أَحَدٍ إِلَّا بِإِذْنِ اللَّهِ. You know where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about Sulaiman and the angels who came as a test? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions, whether it is black magic, whether it is jinns, shayateen, whatever it may be, they cannot harm any individual. وَمَا هُمْ بِضَارِّينَ بِهِ مِنْ أَحَدٍ إِلَّا بِإِذْنِ اللَّهِ. They can only harm if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's will is there. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sanctions it, then only they can harm, otherwise nothing can harm us. So this waswasas, people have this, ridiculous waswasas. Sometimes you're going to someone's house, I don't want to go to that person's house. What if they put something in the food? And you know what, I'm going to get I'll be under their spell or something. I'll be possessed or something, or black magic done on me. So one thing we need to keep in mind, that we treat these kind of things with a lot of power,
and so much power, that sometimes we go beyond the limit and we undermine the power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So obviously, first thing is Allah is Qadir, Allah is Ghalib. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has power, He's dominant over everything. Also, we need to keep in mind, who gets affected with black magic? Who gets affected with jinn? Well, a person who is weak-hearted, a person who's weak in iman, and a person who stays in a state of impurity. I will touch upon this part in a bit, but let me talk about another point about as far as shayateen, jinn is concerned. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created two creatures, human beings and jinns, for His worship. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions about them in the Quran. Allah ta'ala created human being with a special clay. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions about jinns in two places, min nari samum and and marij. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions Allah created jinns with a special fire, and this is that min marij min nar, special fire, and this is that fire which has no smoke. So it's a smokeless fire. Now we can interpret this in different ways. Some recent modern day ulama, they actually interpret this here, because if you look at fire and marij, okay, what is marij? Marij is basically, when you have fire and you have different colors. So the end of the fire, those fine colors in the light that you see, the different colors you see, that is what marij basically means. So there is no real smoke in it. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions that Allah had created jinns with what? Smokeless fire. Now what does it mean? Some ulama in today's time, they interpret this to mean that it is what? Energy. Light is an energy. Fire is an energy. So basically, this is also an energy, a source of energy. That is why you find that there is no real physical form jinns have. They don't have any physical forms. They can come into any different forms. Allah has given them the ability to come into different forms. They can come in the form of snakes, dogs, different forms. So they don't have one specific form. That is why we're not able to pinpoint. And light, how quickly does it move? Let's take a simple story. Sulaiman alayhi salatu wasalam. When he had the arsh, he wanted the arsh from Bilqis. Bilqis herself was a jinn, and her people were also jinns. So when he wanted the throne of Bilqis to come to him very quickly, very quickly. So what do we find in the Quran? قال عفريت من الجن أنا آتيك به قبل أن تقوم من مقامك وإني عليه لقوي أمين. Two people stood up and they told Sulaiman alayhi salatu wasalam, O Sulaiman, we will, the jinn stands up, Ifrit, his name was what? Ifrit, he stands up and he says that I will bring it. And how quickly will he bring it? Now this is miles, thousands of miles away. And Sulaiman alayhi salatu wasalam says, I want it quickly. So he says, قَبْلَ أَن تَقُومَ مِن مَقَامِكَ, I will bring that throne, that heavy throne, so quickly. Imagine the strength and power these people have, jinns have. I will bring it so quickly that before you get up from this place here, it will be before you. أَن تَقُومَ مِن مَقَامِكَ. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned, قَالَ الَّذِي عِنْدَهُ عِلْمٌ مِنَ الْكِتَابِ, that the person who had the knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the knowledge of the kitab, he was a friend of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In some tafsir, they mentioned that he was also a jinn. But this jinn had more power than Ifrit. So Ifrit had the power to bring it within what? Before Sulaiman alayhi salam getting up from his assembly. So the other person says that I will be able to bring this قَبْلَ أَن يَرْتَدَّ إِلَيْكَ طَرْفُكَ, that even before you can blink your eye, meaning within a second, it will be here. So this is the power that they have. And this is how powerful they are. And this is how quickly they're able to move around. So we cannot really put them into the realm of our science and our logic and our physics. They're completely beyond that. Now, as I mentioned to you about Sulaiman ala Nabiyina alayhi salatu wasalam, let me mention a few more points about Sulaiman alayhi salatu wasalam. Sulaiman alayhi salatu wasalam is the only human being who was given the most power. And he was given complete power over shayateen and jinns. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions about him in various places. In Surah An-Naml, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَحُشِرَ لِسُلَيْمَانَ جُنُودُهُ مِنَ الْجِنِّ وَالْإِنسِ وَالطَّيْرِ فَهُمْ يُوزَعُونَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions, Allah had given, وَحُشِرَ, all the jinns, all the ins, every single thing was before Sulaiman, at his disposal, and he can make use of them the way he wanted to. And they were in the army of Sulaiman ala nabiyina alayhi salatu wasalam. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions, what did these jinns do? Sulaiman alayhi salatu wasalam had full control over them. So they were always under the fear of Sulaiman alayhi salatu wasalam, and they would do whatever they can. And the bad ones, they were chained up. Allah ta'ala mentions it in Surah Al-Saba. Allah ta'ala says, وَسَخْرَنَا لَهُ الرِّيحَ تَجْرِي بِأَمْرِهِ رُخَاءً حَيْثُ أَصَابَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had given so much power to Sulaiman alayhi salatu wasalam that even the winds were under his control. So سَخَّرْنَا لَهُ الرِّيحَ, we made the wind subservient to who? Sulaiman ala nabiyina alayhi salatu wasalam. تَجْرِي بِأَمْرِهِ, they used to, even the wind used to move according to the wish of who? Sulaiman alayhi salatu wasalam. تَجْرِي بِأَمْرِهِ رُخَاءً حَيْثُ أَصَابَ. وَالشَّيَاطِينَ, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions Shayateen. These Shayateen are jinns. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions about them. وَالشَّيَاطِينَ كُلَّ بَنَّاءٍ وَغَوَّاسٍ وَآخَرِينَ مُقَرَّنِينَ فِي الْأَصْفَادِ. Allah ta'ala mentions 3 types of jinns here. The first one was Banna. What they used to do, they used to make monuments. They used to make high skyscrapers. They used to make anything that Sulaiman told them, they made that. The Temple of Solomon. Everything was made by who? These jinns. They used to make these kind of Banna. So whatever Sulaiman alayhi salatu wasalam told them, they would do that. وَغَوَّاسٍ, some of them, they used to go deep, they used to dive deep into the ocean and take the they would take the pearls out from beneath the sea. And وَآخَرِينَ مُقَرَّنِينَ فِي الْأَصْفَادِ, and you will see another group of people, these jinns, they were locked up and chained up. Why? Because these were the rebellious ones. They went against Sulaiman ala nabiyina alayhi salatu wasalam. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah ta'ala gave the power to Sulaiman to chain them up, and they were not able to do anything. Now, these jinns were so scared of Sulaiman ala nabiyina alayhi salatu wasalam, that as soon as they see Sulaiman, they would keep on working. They would do whatever the Sulaiman alayhi salatu wasalam told them to do. They would not go against the command of Sulaiman alayhi salatu wasalam. To such an extent that when the temple of Sulaiman alayhi salatu wasalam was being built, even at that moment, what happened? Sulaiman alayhi salatu wasalam, with his stick, he's sitting down, and he's watching the jinns, and they're working. They're labor men, and they're working. Now we're talking about a creation which is 100 times more powerful than human beings. These people are working for Sulaiman alayhi salatu wasalam like labor men. They're working hard. They kept on working. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions about them that falamma, the ayat خَرَّ تَبَيَّنَتِ الْجِنُّ, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions that دَلَّهُمْ عَلَى مَا دَلَّهُمْ عَلَى, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions when we decreed death for Sulaiman ala nabiyina alayhi salatu wasalam, there was nothing which indicated that Sulaiman alayhi salatu wasalam passed away. So he was sitting, and Allah ta'ala extracted his soul, and he passed away. And he was there where he was. And the jinns, even though he passed away, they still carried on working. And to such an extent, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَلَمَّا خَرَّ وَدَابَّةُ الْأَرْضِ. What happened was, there was ants, small creatures, they were eating up the stick of Sulaiman alayhi salatu wasalam. So when that cracked and when that broke, then they realized, oh, Sulaiman has passed away. Then they started going away and running away. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned in the Quran, فَلَمَّا خَرَّ تَبَيَّنَتِ الْجِنُّ أَلَّوْ كَانُوا يَعْلَمُونَ الْغَيْبَ مَا لَبِثُوا فِي الْعَذَابِ الْمُهِينِ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions, when Sulaiman fell, that's when they realized, تَبَيَّنَتِ الْجِنُّ, that's when it became apparent to who? The jinns, that Sulaiman is no longer existing, he's passed away. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions a very, very important principle that we need to understand today. What did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say? Allah ta'ala said, فَلَمَّا خَرَّ تَبَيَّنَتِ الْجِنُّ أَلَّوْ كَانُوا يَعْلَمُونَ الْغَيْبَ مَا لَبِثُوا فِي الْعَذَابِ الْمُهِينِ. Very important principle we need to keep in mind. If Allah ta'ala said, لَوْ كَانُوا يَعْلَمُونَ الْغَيْبَ, had the jinns have knowledge of unseen, If the jinns had knowledge of unseen, مَا لَبِثُوا فِي الْعَذَابِ الْمُهِينِ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is referring, adab here is being referred to the work that Sulaiman had put upon them as burden. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, if they knew that, if they had the knowledge of unseen, then they would have known that Sulaiman alayhi salatu wasalam has passed away, and they would not carry on working, which was a terrible adab for them. They would not carry on doing that. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala clearly tells us by illustrating a very special example of Sulaiman alayhi salatu wasalam, and says that jinns do not have the knowledge of unseen except for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives them. We need to understand that. Because a lot of people, what they do is, go to this person here. Oh, he's going to tell you, especially the astrologers. People go to astrologers. You guys know who astrologers are? You know those psychics? People go, they're palm readers. You go to those people. Now those type of people normally have what? Some kind of connection with jinn. So we think that, this person has some kind of connection with jinn, and he's going to find out for me what's going to happen to me, who I'm going to get married to. Oh, what's going to happen? Am I going to get a job? Am I not going to get a job? What's going to happen? All these different things. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us that even jinns, they do not have knowledge of unseen. Alimul ghaybi wa shahada. The sole being who has ultimate power over and knowledge over present and something which is not present is only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, no one else. So alimul ghaybi wa shahada is only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we need to keep in mind, sometimes we think that this individual, he has jinns possessed by him, which means that he can send his jinn to that person, he can find out so many things for us. That is absolutely wrong. If that was the case, then when Sulaiman alayhi salatu wasalam passed away, then they would have run away, because they had the knowledge of unseen, but they did not have knowledge of unseen. And this is something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes it very clear in the Quran as well. Also now we need to keep in mind that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mentioned various places. General principle of jinn is that they do not interact, they don't cross borders, so they don't interact with human beings. Jinns are separate and human beings are separate. They have separate roles to do, duties to do. Just like how we pray salat, they have to pray salat. We give zakat, they have to give zakat. وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. They have to do the same worship as us. That's the principle we need to keep in mind. However, they do it according to the way they do it, and we do it the way we have to do it. We do not cross. Do you know that every single day we have jinns in this masjid here? Okay, look, by the way, if I mention to you some stories, I will mention to you some stories, jinn stories. I know you guys get excited, especially when you go out in Jamaat and Sheikh tells jinn stories. As if you're sitting there and watching a horror movie or something like that. People get excited with those kind of things here. I will mention, but you know what? If someone has a very weak heart, and if the parents are sitting here, I don't want you to come to me. I'm making a disclaimer right now. That if I mention some stories right now, and I don't want you to come to me and tell me that my son is so scared he's not going to come to the masjid anymore, or my son doesn't go to the washroom anymore, or you really freaked him out. If you feel that you have a very weak heart or something like that, I'm not going to go so deep into it. But if I do mention something, I'm making a very extreme disclaimer right now, that if you think that you have a weak heart and you can't understand these stories here, just walk out. I will not mind at all. Okay, just keep that in mind. So anyways, coming back to the topic here. So general principle is shayateen are different, and jinns and shayateen are same thing. And human beings, we do ours. So we do not cross borders. But sometimes interactions do take place. Confrontation between human beings and jinns do take place. At one occasion, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions epilepsy. You know what that is? When a person gets epileptic, what do you call that in Urdu? Seizure. But no, there's another word in Urdu. I don't know. What's the word in Urdu? Seizure. जानते हैं सीजर को? Dora? Can't भी जाए. So that's a Gujarati word, but anyways. So that is, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned, يَتَخَبَّطُهُ الشَّيْطَانُ مِنَ الْمَسِّ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions about the people that eat riba. الَّذِينَ يَأْكُلُونَ riba. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions about those people who will be consuming interest. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions about them, يَتَخَبَّطُهُ الشَّيْطَانُ مِنَ الْمَسِّ. So they will be, they're touched by shaitan, and they will be getting up in such a way that they will not be able to have control over them at all. That's how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes such people who consume interest. And that's how they will be getting up on the day of judgment for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this description fits the best. The best description for this is a person who's got a seizure and who's not able to control himself. So from this we learn that shayateen, when they touch you, and ulama, most of the ulama, they feel that when a person has a seizure, he's got some kind of effect of jinn in him, and as a result of that, this happens to him. Obviously, maybe in a health perspective, science perspective, there may be a different theory behind it, but we find ulama perspective that there is something to it in terms of jinn having interaction with us. We need to keep in mind that when we're praying salat, when you say assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, the imam, when he makes salam, he's actually sending salam to you. Whenever I say assalamu alaikum, I'm actually making salam to you. Ahmad is saying, what? Yes, I'm making salam to all of you. I am not only making salam to all of you, I'm making salam to the angels that are with me on either side, and I'm also making salam to who? The jinns, the good jinns that come, I'm making salam to them as well. So which means that in this masjid there are jinns. There are jinns. Now don't get too scared. But there are jinns in this masjid as well. And they pray salat with us. They're good jinns. They come and pray salat and they go. But there are jinns. And when you say assalamu alaikum, we are making salam to them as well. The pious jinns, the good jinns. So there is jinns. Let's look at one more hadith and then we move on further. Just to give you an idea that some jinns are always with us. Whenever we go to sleep, I mentioned this hadith in the morning today. It comes in Sahih Bukhari. What happens is when a person, when he goes to sleep, he's waking up in the morning, what happened? There's one jinn. He's resting ala khayshumihi, by your nose. Just by where the hole is, that's where he's resting. And he sits there. And he makes sure he's guarding you, he's making sure you sleep. You're fast asleep. And then when he puts you to sleep, alayka laylun taweel, alayka laylun taweel, keep on sleeping, keep on sleeping. Alarm is ringing, 6 o'clock, your mom's, blasting, and she's telling you, wake up, wake up, wake up. And she's getting tired as well, waking you up. You're not getting up. Well, you've got that little boy, that jinn sitting on your nose, and he's just telling you to keep on sleeping, keep on sleeping, keep on sleeping. So you can't get up. Prophet ﷺ mentions, when a person reads Alhamdulillah, he ties 3 knots. So when he says Alhamdulillah, then he unties 1 knot. And then when he goes to the washroom and he does wudu, he unties the 2nd knot. And then when he prays salat, he unties all the knots. And as a result of that, now when he wakes up in the morning, he'll find his morning to be very fresh. And mashallah, tayyibun nafs, he'll be very, very fresh. As opposed to a person who doesn't do this, he'll be very lazy and very tired. You have youngsters, they wake up, tomorrow's weekend. You're going to wake up at 12 o'clock in the morning, or I think that's afternoon now, right? You wake up 12 o'clock in the afternoon and, I'm tired. Come on, you just got your maximum rest. But these kids, they go, I'm tired. What do you mean you're tired? You were sleeping for 12 hours, 15 hours, and you're still tired? What does tiredness mean? It's because of the effect of shaitan. So shaitan is there. Now one more point. When narration, Prophet ﷺ mentioned, he's sitting on your nose. Now what happens many, many times, when we do wudu, we don't even, sometimes when you do wudu, we just like this all over, and the water is just going all over. How many times do we even clean our nose properly? Istinshaq. Istinshaq basically means to take the water into your nose, into your nostrils, and make sure that the filth comes out. So you don't do that. And there's a shaitan that normally rests. That's the place where shaitan rests. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to purify ourselves and make sure we are in tahara and in good condition. Now what happens, half the guys, this is sunnat, like that, and it's done. You don't even take the water inside. You should take the water inside and clean it. And some people, they exaggerate. And now sometimes what's going to happen, you're going to have, wuzu, you're making wuzu, one person is going to, cheese, can take everything out, and you see that guy, and all the blood and everything coming out as well. Anyways, the point I'm making here is that there is khayshum, there is what? Shaitan that sits there. And Prophet ﷺ mentions that when you do wudu, you would do wudu properly, so you're able to make sure everything is clean, everything is purified, so shaitan can stay away from you. That is the biggest tool that human beings have been given, that we do we stay with wudu, and this will keep shaitan away as much as possible. Also, we need to keep in mind that is shayateen. They existed way before Adam alayhi salatu wasalam. And we find the leader, Iblis, and we will go into more detail next time when we talk about Iblis. But Iblis was the leader of all the shayateen and the jinns. And how we became very close and things like that we will talk about later. But the point I'm making is that they existed long before us. So amongst them, some of them, they followed the kitab of Musa ala Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam, some of them didn't. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned in the Quran, I'm not going to go into so much detail because I wanted to mention a few stories, then we will close inshallah. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions, as far as the jinn is concerned, that they had so much power that they would be able to go to the second and the third heaven, and the angels, whatever commandment Allah ta'ala had given them, water coming, rain coming, snow coming, hot, heat, whatever it may be, coolness, whatever they need to execute the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they would go all the way there and they would be able to tell what's happening. That is why the astrologers, they would seek help from them, because they would go so far and they would be able to get all the information. Now what happened was, suddenly the doors are closed, shooting stars, and all these many different tactics, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala got rid of them. They can't go near the angels anymore. They can't go near the commandments of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala which were given to the angels, and they're not able to get this. So the jinns, they said that, hey, something is wrong. So they had a world conference. They got together from all over. They got together. They're like, something's wrong, something's gone wrong. We tried going all the way there, but we can't get any information anymore. What's wrong? So they had different jama'ats. And one jama'at went north, east, south, different places. And one jama'at, and this was in the early days of Islam, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, I believe in a place of Uqaz or different, I'm not exactly sure where the place was, but Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam in the valley, because at that time it was very difficult to pray salat by Kaaba openly. So Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is praying salat, and he's reciting Quran. And a group of people, they said, hey, stop. Something we see here. There's something that we see here. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions about that. وَإِذْ صَرَفْنَا إِلَيْكَ نَفَرًا مِنَ الْجِنِّ يَسْتَمِعُونَ الْقُرْآنَ فَلَمَّا حَضَرُوهُ قَالُوا أَنْصِتُوا فَلَمَّا قُضِيَ وَلَّوْا إِلَىٰ قَوْمِهِمْ مُنْذِرِينَ. So what happened is they heard the message, and spontaneously they accepted the message of Allah, Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and they became Muslim, and they became da'i as well. Allah Ta'ala mentions about it. يَا قَوْمَنَا أَجِيبُوا دَاعِيَ اللَّهِ وَآمِنُوا بِهِ يَغْفِرْ لَكُم مِّن ذُنُوبِكُمْ. In that same verse, Allah Ta'ala mentions that they became da'i. So they became Muslim, and they started giving da'wah to other people, and many other jinns became Muslims as well. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions Surah Al-Jinn. You know that there's a special surah in the Quran called Surah Al-Jinn? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions, وَأَنَّا مِنَّا الْمُسْلِمُونَ وَمِنَّا دُونَ ذَلِكَ. Amongst us, there are believers, those that have submitted themselves to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and there وَمِنَّا الصَّالِحُونَ وَمِنَّا الْقَاسِطُونَ. There are some who are pious, and some are who rebellious, and they do not they're not obedient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So just like how human beings, we find good ones and bad ones, like that in jinn, you'll find good ones and bad ones as well. Now let's come to the point here, the main thing. When do we get affected by jinn? One key golden principle keep in mind right now, that bad jinns, a person will get affected by them when they are in the state of impurity. Very important, keep in mind. When you are in the state of impurity, that is the time normally you will get affected by jinns. So, the Prophet ﷺ mentioned it clearly. When you go to washroom, what is the dua that you read? Allahumma inni a'udhu bika min al-khubuthi wal-khaba'is. So you clearly mention to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Wallah, I'm going to be entering the washroom. So when I enter the washroom, Wallah, I seek protection from female jinns and male jinns and female jinns. Which means that in the washroom there will be jinns. So those people who keep their washrooms open, who keep everything open, their toilet open, everything open, respected brothers and sisters, that's not a good thing. If you have a habit of doing that, make sure you keep your doors closed from now on. Always keep your doors closed. Keep your toilet bowl closed, everything, because this is the place of najasat. Nowadays, mashallah, our toilets are so, spick and span that you don't see anything there. But again, this is the place where we, relieve ourselves. So as a result of that, you will find shayateen there, as Prophet ﷺ mentions. So those people who keep their doors open, obviously, this doesn't mean that shayateen are definitely there, the jinns are definitely there, but they can be there. It doesn't mean that, every time in the washroom there's jinn there. No, they can be there. There's a possibility they will be there. So that's one thing we need to look into. Also, another thing we need to keep in mind, all the men are sitting here, the parents or and the youngsters, janabat. Sometimes what happens is that we're not particular about that. So what happens is that we're in the state of janabat. Sometimes we have relationship and we're in the janabat and we prolong ourselves. We should try coming out from the state of janabat as soon as possible. Because now when you're coming to the state of janabat, you're making you're making yourself weaker. So let's understand the concept of jinn. When you get sick, when do you normally get sick? Doctor perspective and health perspective, what do we learn? That when your immune system is weak, then you're vulnerable. Then you will get sick, you catch a cold, and you have different problems because your immune system is weak. Likewise, when we are weak, our iman is weak, and we are in the state of janabat, we are in a state of impurity, we stay in this condition here. Now we are making our condition such that we are becoming vulnerable, and the shayateen and the jinns will come and attack us, and they can come into us. So that is why it's very important that we make sure that we are always in the state of what? Taharat. Always stay in the state of what? Cleanliness. I had one personal experience I will mention to you. I had mentioned a long time ago. Especially in South Africa. This happened to me a lot. When I was in South Africa, I used to sleep. And every time I used to sleep, with the exception of 1 day or 2 days, every time when I'm sleeping, this used to happen to me in Canada as well. I'm sleeping and suddenly I feel so much burden on my chest. And I feel so many just sitting on me, and I start reading kalima, la ilaha, la ilaha, la ilaha. And I don't know what's going on. And there's a very famous kitab, Ahkamul Marjan fi Ahkamil Marjan. There's a whole book, there's, it's 300 pages on this kitab, just on jinns. And there it mentions that is the effect of what? Jinn. And what are you supposed to be doing? Making sure you do wudu to keep yourself. Wallahi, ever since I started doing wudu, I never had that problem again. What do we learn? Taharat is very, very important, and we need to make sure that we always stay in the state of taharat. Also, we need to keep in mind that, let me just mention to you, sometimes people will think that, is there such a thing as jinns? Is there a reality? Is there? Well, we believe in Quran, so we know there's jinns. But let me just share with you 1 or 2 stories, and then we'll conclude. In England, when Ali mentioned the story in England, this happened, and this is, his first experience. So I'm not just bluffing and just making up a story here. If you want to believe it, you believe it. If you don't want to believe it, that's up to you. But anyways, in England, I believe this is in Darul Bury, or one of the madrasas there. So what happened was that one person, there's one area, very few students, lots of rooms. So these students, they were told not to go to one section. And that section was completely, vacant. No one was living there. Nothing was there. And it was just completely vacant. Nothing was there. So the supervisor had told the students that don't go to that area. And there must have a reason. But these guys, kids are always curious. So they went one day. And when they went there, they started hearing all these different noises. And they got scared. And they just took off from that place and they ran for their life. Now what happened was that amongst them, there was one individual. And he was a kid, small kid, very young kid. He might be about 11, 12 years old. And this person used to have so much problem memorizing Quran. So he was there for a while, and he had only memorized 1 juz. And he was struggling. Suddenly what happens? He's before his teacher, and now his teacher, he's sitting, and he says in Arabic, he starts, this young boy, I'm not going to mention his ethnicity, but this young boy, he's sitting before the teacher, and he starts speaking in Arabic, and he's saying that, test me. So the teacher, obviously back in those days, things were very lenient. The teacher's like, you're fooling me or something like that, get smart. I know you don't know anything, why are you telling me this here? So he goes, no, I'm serious, test me. And he's speaking in Arabic language. Now this kid had no clue of Arabic language, and suddenly he's speaking Arabic language. So the teacher just suddenly says, okay, you know what? you really want me to test you from anywhere in the Quran? He said, yeah, test me. So he tests him. Now what happens is, the teacher says, read from this part of juz here, this, and he's reading. And the teacher knows that he only knew one juz. And now suddenly he's reading. And he's reading from anywhere in the whole Quran. The teacher is shocked. And then they were monitoring this student here, and they were seeing different things. He was slightly acting weird. And one day what happens, he comes and he gets those, what do you call machines, hair cutting machine. So what he does, he cuts, he makes half bald and half had hair. And he goes to the class. And the teacher's like, what have you done to yourself? So the teacher gets, what do you call, the machine, and he makes the hair even. And what happened was that one of the nights, the kids were sleeping in that room. So everyone just woke up and they left and they went to the supervisor. They're like, hey, there's a jinn in the room. And then the supervisor went to see, and that boy is sleeping there and there's nothing wrong. So then they realized that this youngster had some kind of problem. Now what happened? So the teacher started doing some kind of work on this student here in reciting Quran. Now the problem was this boy was possessed by a jinn who was Arab, who knew Arabic, and at the very same time that jinn was Hafiz. So every time when the teacher was trying to counter jinn, or get the jinn out from the boy, this jinn would counter it by reciting the same verse again. And the teacher was not able to. They tried so many attempts, but they were not able to. Finally, they had to send the boy away to his hometown, and they did something, and finally after some time he became a normal person and he came back, and he only knew one juz. He was not Hafiz. And your kids here, if you're having problem memorizing Quran, just work hard and carry on doing it. But don't ever make dua. Don't make relationship with jinns and say, you know what? Well, let me become Hafiz in one day, and you know what? Come to your father, I'm a Hafiz now. Don't do those kind of crazy things here, okay? Jinns are jinns. You don't want to get too close to them. You want to keep yourself distance from them. So there is a reality. Let me tell you one more story, or just maybe one or two stories here. One person, normally women are told not to go outside at night. Because Shayateen, Allah Ta'ala mentioned in the Quran, min shari ghasiqin idha waqab. So Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala mentions about, all the things that happens at night. So we are told that after Maghrib, generally our old people used to tell us that after Maghrib, don't go out. So one woman, she decided, it was in Bangladesh, she decided to go outside. So she went, and then she got possessed by jinn. And at night, it became a talk of the town, because this woman suddenly has so much power, and she became so strong. So 7 men were putting her down, but they were not able to. But the person who mentions, he saw himself, says that this woman actually lifted 7 men up. Right? Who are you to stop me? So what happened was, now obviously that woman was possessed. She was possessed by who? The jinn. So as a result of that, obviously it was the jinn that was doing all this work from the behind. But obviously we can't see the jinn. It's only what we see, which is the human being. It is mentioned in the kitabs as well. There's one story which is mentioned about in Kufa, in Iraq. There was one tajir, he went to get a house. And rent a room. And he could not find any room except for one room. And that room was vacant for many years, many days, and no one used to go there. So that's the only room he can find, so he rented that room. He goes to sleep, and he starts all these squeaky and all these different noise. And he realized that there's a jinn in this, there's shayateen and there's jinn here. So he started reading Ayatul Kursi. So when he was reading Ayatul Kursi, the jinn was doing exactly the same thing, repeating it, except for one part. Now, Ayatul Kursi is very effective for jinn. Ayatul Kursi is very effective for jinn. But there's one part in Ayatul Kursi where he kept reading, وَلَا يَؤُودُهُ حِفْظُهُمَا. Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala does not get tired in looking after and safeguarding the heavens and the earth. We can only do 8 hours duty, our 8 hour shift, and then we get tired. But Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala looks after the heavens and the earth, وَلَا يَؤُودُهُ حِفْظُهُمَا. And it's not a burden upon Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. So this is the only part the jinn got stuck. So this person realized, وَلَا يَؤُودُهُ حِفْظُهُمَا وَلَا يَؤُودُهُ حِفْظُهُمَا. Kept on reading that. So as a result of that, that jinn finally disappeared. And what happens is, he actually saw some ashes after that, there was ashes. So the reality is, there are jinns out there, and they come in different forms. They come in the form of what? Snake. They come in the form of dogs. In Medina Munawwara, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he went to Medina Munawwara, he ordered to kill the dogs. There's too many dogs. And then he said, kill the black dogs, because the shayateen, they were coming in the form of black dogs. And at one occasion we find in hadith, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the jinns, they came to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and they complained to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, O Prophet of Allah, tell your people that they should not eat upon bones, and they should not urinate, and they should not put any najasat upon the bones, because that is our food. So Allah, everyone's got different way, and every creature eats in its own unique way. So jinns, they eat off the bones. That's how Allah has kept their food. Now if someone goes urinate, obviously this is going to cause inconvenience to them. That is why it comes in the kitab as well, it's makruh to do any kind of istinja with what? Bones. Because it's a food for who? The jinns. Now, obviously sometimes you will see animals going. You will see some dogs going, something going and sucking on the bone. It can be a jinn. It can be a jinn. Who knows? It can be something, right? Because they come in different forms, and we may not know. They come in the form of snakes. Musa alayhi salatu wasalam, there was this, one jinn, the snake that bit Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu in the cave, that he was actually a jinn who came in the form of what? Snake. So what do we learn? We learn that they come in all different forms. Allah has given them power. Now also you need to keep in mind, just because we know Qul a'udhu bil falaq, Qul a'udhu bin nas, and we may know a little bit, that doesn't mean we are able to take the jinn out. Only the people that are special at this and they're expert, they can do that. One person who was possessed by a jinn, what happened was that the people brought that person to one sheikh. He had a white beard, and he used to work on the jinns as well. So what happened was, when they brought, it was actually a woman, and she was brought to that sheikh with white beard, and he's starting to read Quran. And Quran is very effective to get rid of jinns. So he started doing that. And the moment he started doing that, that woman, grabbed his beard, gave one big slap across his face, and go, who are you? And get away. And that sheikh just ran away. So sometimes, jinn, there's not one jinn in a human being. There was another case, what happened was, one human being, one person went to treat this person here and to get rid of the jinn. But he never came back the next day. So people said that, why don't you come back and finish your job? He goes, no, I don't want to come back. So when people found out why he's not coming back, he saw that there were 3 jinns, and sometimes even the person who's working on the person, he gets scared and frightened as well. So it's not everyone's cup of tea to work on jinns. There are special people that can work on it, and it's a very detailed thing here. I will leave you with one note here though, that sometimes this is actually mentioned in Ruqya Shar'iyya. If you see these kind of effects, then these can be, if it's not health related, sometimes it's health related. If it's not health related, then maybe it's the effect of shayateen, it's effect of magic, it's effect of jinn. What is it? Number 1, turning away and reacting strongly when hearing the adhan. When the adhan is called, sometimes we know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions, Prophet sallallahu mentions, when the adhan is called, the shayateen, they run, they flee, they go, they run, they leave behind, they start, Durat, they have actually, they pass wind as they're going because they're so frightened. It comes in a hadith. So anyways, they go to the furthest point where they can't hear adhan. In India, I noticed myself that many dogs, as soon as the adhan is called, you find, ooh, the dogs, they have a totally different sound. But when they hear the adhan, and then they are also replying to adhan in a very different way. I don't know if you noticed that. Aapne shayad dekha hoga, humne to Hindustan mein bahut dekha hai. Because they can see shayateen. They can see, and some of them can also be jinn themselves as well. So again, so if someone has this problem that they can't hear adhan, and they just they can't take it, then obviously it's effect. Or Quran. Sometimes, people, they react, and this happens to children as well. Sometimes you make them recite Quran, and they just get excited, and they're not able to, listen to Quran at all. There is a problem. There is a problem. Sometimes, we think, oh, what's wrong with our children? They're so disobedient, but sometimes there can be a problem as well. That's why I'm telling you that we need to make sure that they're always with purity, and they stay away from distance from impurity, etc., etc. So if our children have problem listening to Quran and they get too excited, they're not able to listen to Quran, there's a problem there as well. Number 2, fainting, seizures, and falling when Quran is read over him. Sometimes when you read Quran, and sometimes a person just can't take it, and he falls. There's one person, Maulana Junaid from Bombay. It's a very informative bayan, and mashallah, I was really impressed with that bayan that he did, and I think everyone should listen to that bayan. And from his practical experience, he mentions that many ulama, many huffaz, to an extent they're affected with jinns and magic, but they don't know. So he says, read Quran. And he says, some people, they read in 1 juz and they fainted. Some people read 5 juz and they fainted. And some people, they read 10 juz, and after 10 juz, they just could not take it anymore. So people have effect, but people don't realize it. But there is effect of what? Jinns. Also, we need to keep in mind a lot of disturbing dreams. If someone is getting a lot of disturbing dreams, that's also another sign that he's got some kind of effect of jinn and shayateen or black magic. Number 4, being alone, keeping away from people, and behaving strangely. Now, sometimes it can be because of psychological issues, mental issues. Even today's time, if you go to psychiatrists and psychologists, even today's time, they're not able to pinpoint. Sometimes they are able to, but there are times where they're not able to pinpoint and they just don't know. What they do is they just give you medicine to control you, but they're not able to pinpoint exactly what's wrong with you, because this is something beyond our scope of science and biology. Number 5, devil who is dwelling in him may speak when Quran is recited over him. So these are some of the symptoms. Sometimes what happens, there's some other symptoms that we can also keep in mind, that headaches that move from one part of the head to another. This can also be related to some form of effect of outside. Weak appetite. Sometimes what happens is a feeling, strong heartbeats. A person's getting too much in the strong heartbeat, pain in lower back and shoulders, sadness and anxiety, lack of sleep at night, strong reaction due to abnormal fears. So a lot of burping, yawning and sighing, withdrawal and love of solitude. So there is no love and solitude, and being lazy, a tendency to sleep. So these kind of things, if it's not, you should definitely go to doctors first and get it checked. And don't just, people just, like to, and then, that's it. And, honestly speaking, half the times, we say that, I'm affected by, something outside. It's not true. It is some simple problem that you have, but we just like to blame it on something outside. That's not true. Get it checked, go to doctor and get it checked. And things are not working out, then you might want to try a different thing. But simple things that we should always do. What is a simple thing? We will discuss that next week, inshallah, in detail. So these are the symptoms that we talked about. If we have any of this, then we know there's some kind of effectiveness. Now, respected brothers, Prophet ﷺ has told us, the word is called isti'adha, a'udhu. These words here, there are certain occasions where we must read a'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. There are certain occasions where we should make dua, and there's so many things related to it. That's a topic on its own. So I just give you the symptoms, and I give you a taste of next week's lecture. So next week, inshallah, we'll go in detail, and how can we remedy ourselves on general cases. If it's a very unique case, then you will have to go to a specialist. But general case, we should be able to remedy ourselves by the prescription which is given to us by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Inshallah, we will discuss that next week. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give all of us understanding. One last thing that I wanted to mention to you people is going back to Halloween again. Now, there's a lot of tomorrow. Please stay away. It's not a good thing that we as Muslims, we don't practice that. However, there's Halal Oween. What is that? If you really want to go, then go to Halal Oween. What is that? Islamic Foundation is doing it. Some other big masjids are doing it, where they're having a whole bunch of kids' activities on that day. So that's actually, many masajid, they actually came up with an idea of alternative for kids. So they have painting, they have other things, and keep the kids busy, but they're not going to be going there. So that's something that they're going to, so it's a fun day for kids. So some masajid are doing that just so that they get distracted from trick-or-treating. Let's make to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There's one person, his nephew is a very close friend of mine and my student, Ahmad Patel, his uncle. His name is Abdul Samad Patel from Thorncliffe area. His hometown is Warethi. So if whoever knows this person here, he's he's basically virtually has passed away, but make dua for him. Just suddenly, it's actually a lesson for all of us. His nephew just called me as I walked into this masjid here. He said that my uncle, he was driving a car, and as he was driving in car, he's only 60 years old. He was driving a car, and suddenly he felt something in his brains. And so he pulled the car over, he's rushed to the hospital, there's a blood clot. And it became so serious that within 2 days, he said, the nephew just called me right now, he's in St. Mike's, he said, within 2 days. So respected brothers and sisters, we have no guarantee what can happen next minute. We're walking, he was so healthy, there was no problem, people know who he is. Right? He used to joke around, he was a mashallah funny person, funny guy, but suddenly things change. So obviously, please make dua for him as well. Allahumma lakal hamdu kulluhu wa lakal shukru kulluhu wa ilayka yarju al-amru kulluhu. Allahumma la nuhsi thana'an 'alayka anta kama athnayta 'ala nafsik. Ya Rabbi lakal hamdu kama yanbaghi li jalali wajhika wa 'azimi sultanik. Ya Rabbi salli wa sallim da'iman abadan 'ala habibika khayril khalqi kullihim. O Allah, forgive our sins. O Allah, pardon our sins. O Allah, give us a true understanding of our religion. O Allah, make it easy for every one of us. O Allah, protect us from shayateen. O Allah, protect us from all kinds of evil that are out there. O Allah, protect us from all kinds of evil which are out there. Ya Allah, always keep us, Ya Allah, in your safety. Ya Allah, keep us away and distance from shayateen and effect of shayateen. Ya Allah, make us closer to you. Ya Allah, there are many brothers that are sick. Ya Allah, brother Aslam Nana, his grandparents, they are also in serious condition and they're sick. Ya Allah, make it easy for them, bless them with a speedy recovery. Likewise, brother Abdul Samad Patel, who is also sick in the hospital, Ya Allah, make it easy for them. All those family members which are affected by this sad news, Ya Allah, make it easy for them as well. Wallah, accept our dua. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun wa salamun ala alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. अभी गुजरे नहीं है लेकिन